We finish our parikrama of Vrindavan. After the Kesi Ghat, we visited the Vansivat, and there is a temple. Who remember the deity name? Any Shrutadar? Anybody remember the name of the deity at Vansivat?
Prabhu Radha Gopinath.
No. Anybody else would like to guess?
Madan Mohan Temple, Prabhu.
No. It's related to Vansi. Vansi what? Shri Shri Radha Vansi Bihari. That's the name of the deity at Vansivat. Okay. Same thing we see at the Santanu Kund also. The name is Shri Shri Radha Santanu Bihari. So those deities take the name from the places. Nice to dwell like this. I remember Shri Shri Radha Santanu Bihari. It says that, when you visit there, they have a long list. The parent who doesn't have any children, they pray to the deities there. And it says that whoever prays there, they fulfill the desire. Something. So we are reading from Simanaha Siksha, Splendid Instructions to the Mind by Raghunath Das Goswami. And we are on verse number 6, commentary by Jayadvaita Swami Maharaj. I think he's the one who was entrusted to continue Srimad Bhagavatam with the help of Hridayanand Maharaj and Gopi Paranadhan Prabhu. Very exalted personality. And Jayadvaita Maharaj may have selected this verse because it's so important. And Maharaj has given a very long commentary on this verse. We may be dwelling for some time on this commentary. So let's continue reading Jayadvaita Swami Maharaj commentary on verse number 6. Expertise as part of devotion. Now, it's not that we have to be a culture of incompetence. When Achyutanand Prabhu compiled ISKCON's first songbook, Srila Prabhupada appreciatively wrote in a foreword, quote, "He has learned how to sing in Bengali and play mridanga like an expert professional," unquote. But on the other hand, if externally someone is a great singer or a great speaker or a great pujari or a great yagna performer or whatever, but internally the heart is all trash, then we have a problem. The one Raghunath Das Goswami is speaking about in this verse, it's deceit problem. Raghunath Das Goswami balances his verse by saying on the one side to give up all this affectation, this urinary interest you have. And the other side, develop your love for Radha and Krishna. That's the real business of life. I was just writing to some devotee that either we live in a hut or we live in a palace. Only thing it will count at the end of our life, how many breathe. We have fixed number of breathing that we will be able to take. And it's already ordained by the Supreme Lord. Nobody can change it. So at the end of the life, it will be counted how many breathing did we remember Krishna. That's the test. Doesn't make any difference we live in a hut or we live in a palace. Something very profound. In the early days of Jadurani's painting, at one point, she was applying techniques from the great masters and trying to become really professional. She wasn't trying to become as good as Rembrandt, Rembrandt, but because all the great masters studied anatomy carefully, she painted a very muscular Narad Muni. And Prabhupada said, quote, if you want to go down this path, I will pray to Krishna to save you, unquote. Profound instruction. Save her from what? From becoming like a professional artist. Srila Prabhupada sometimes detected a problem with her devotees who had learned some Sanskrit. A devotee may have wanted to show by editing Sanskrit. So he decided to go to university and take an introductory Sanskrit course. Now he knows a little Sanskrit. But Prabhupada said, quote, as soon as he knows a little Sanskrit, he thinks he is better than his even Guru Maharaj, unquote. You observe the mundane mentality that these people have. You start to become a rationalist and you start to think you are hot stuff because you know the rules of Sandhi, and all these incompetent ISKCON brahmacharis are chanting without the correct pronunciation. And then you think you can correct your guru. You become popped up and then you are finished. In any category, whether it is academics, art, music, business, or anything, when people start to think they are God's gift to the Vaishnava community, deceit will arise. So professional training can be pitfall. There are valuable things we can learn. On the other hand, when you pick up the head, you get the tail also. So one has to be very careful. Academically, if a product is up to a certain standard, it's good, no matter what rubbish the actual content is. But if something is not up to that standard, then it is rubbish, no matter how exalted it is. Academics with this point of view are fools because their emphasis is on what doesn't matter and they are missing the point. Someone is crying out that there is a fire and you are analyzing the grammar of that sentence. So Prabhupada wrote in regard to his translation and commentary on Srimad Bhagavatam that somehow he had to get his message across in a foreign language, although there would be so many discrepancies. He said that if there is a fire in the house, then the residents will somehow or other make it known to the neighbors, even if they don't speak the same language. Of course, you have to know your level of capability and also be humble. If you approach a big Sanskrit professor, it doesn't really pay to come up like you are the world's greatest Sanskritist. Therefore, it is advised that one be humble, but at the same time, clear about one's principles. Academics who are honest will appreciate that you have got something. The Lord and his internal energy is the next topic that Jai Advaita Swami Maharaj will speak on. So we will continue reading Srila Prabhupada Lilamrita. We are on volume number 3, chapter titled New Jagannath Puri. So I'll read a couple of lines. to bring up to the speed because our brain doesn't have that much memory anyway. The commune had about 100 full-time members, with the number of the residents rising to as many as 300 on the weekend in warm weather. When people would come out to work in the garden or just walk around naked and get high. That's where we left. So Prabhupada arrived at 1 in the afternoon on a beautiful sunny day. He first wanted to rest, so Lou offered his own house. Walking to Lou's place, Prabhupada noticed a few nude men and women going in the garden. One of the workers, a short, stocky young man, Herbie Brashak, stopped his work in the garden and came to greet the Swami. And this Herbie is describing in his own word when he met Srila Prabhupada. Lou Gottlieb introduced us. We are planting potatoes at the time. He said, quote, "This is Swami Bhaktivedanta," unquote. I came out of the garden and shook Swamiji's hand. I said, quote, "Hello, Swami." He asked me, "What are you doing?" I told him that I was just planting potatoes. He then asked me what I was doing with my life. I didn't answer. After resting for a few minutes, Prabhupada was ready for the kirtan. This is amazing. I have witnessed it. My Guru Maharaj, sometime I used to take to some devotee home to take lunch, prasadam. And then, I take to the one new member, and somehow or other, Goswami Maharaj accepted to visit even that was not even initiated at the time. These personalities are sometimes very compassionate. So after the prasadam, then I asked the member that, we have to make a bed because Gurudev will take little rest. And, the member were thinking, oh, so Gurudev went to take little rest. And within 10, 12 minutes, he get up and opened the door. And, all this family was sitting, they were thinking, oh, it may be at least 30 minutes nap or something. When he came out in 12 minutes, we were amazed. Very short nap, powerful. It's called the power nap. So here also, after resting for a few minutes, Prabhupada was ready for the kirtan. He and Lou went to a hilly pasture where the hippies had placed a wooden seat for Prabhupada before a bower of wildflower arranged like a bandsaw. Prabhupada took his seat and began chanting. The commune members, all of whom had been anticipating the Swami's visit, gathered eagerly for the group meditation. So Mike Morrissey is explaining in his own word as follows. Some people had clothes on, some people didn't. Some were dancing around, but Swamiji wasn't looking at our bodies. He was looking at our souls and giving us the mercy we needed. The kirtan was well received. One of the members of the commune was so enthralled by the kirtan that he decided to put on his clothes and go back to San Francisco with the Swami. Hari Bol, one kirtan can change the heart. Prabhupada spoke very briefly, and then he prepared to leave, shaking hands and exchanging courtesies as he walked to the car. Although Srila Prabhupada hadn't spoken much philosophy, his kirtan left a deep impression on the hippies at Morning Star. While living, he had told one of the young men, quote, "Keep chanting this Hare Krishna mantra here," unquote. And they did. So Lou Gettilam is describing in his own words. The Swami was an extremely intelligent guy with a job to do. There was no sanctimony, sanctimony or holy presentation. None of that time. None of that eyes lifted silently to the sky. All I remember is just a very pleasant, incredibly safe feeling. There is no doubt that the Mahamantra, once you get the mantra into the head, it's there. It never stops. It's in the cells. It awakens the DNA or something. Shortly thereafter, half of the people at Morning Star got seriously into chanting. Those that did were extremely sincere God seekers. Their aspiration was 1,000% sincere, considering the circumstances in which they were found. They were all dopers, that's for sure. But they definitely gave that up once they got in touch with the Mahamantra. How powerful it is. So his top cloth wrapped loosely around his shoulders. Prabhupada stood at last moment by the open door of the car and looked back in farewell to the devotees and the storefront temple. It was no longer a mere storefront, but had become something worthy. New Jagannath Puri, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati had asked him to come here. Who among his godbrothers could imagine how crazy these American hippies were? Hallucinating on drugs, crying out, "I'm God." So many girls and boys unhappy, mad, despite their wealth and education. But now, through Krishna consciousness, some were finding happiness. When we chant the Hare Krishna Mahamantra, there should be no fear in our life. That's the result of chanting the Hare Krishna Mahamantra in first verse of 6th Dastika. The first day he had arrived, the reporter had asked him why he had come to Hyde Ashbury. Quote, "Because the rent is cheap," unquote. He had replied. His desire was to spread the movement of Lord Chaitanya. Why else would he have come to such a dilapidated little storefront to live next to a Chinese laundry and digger's free store? The reporters had asked if he were inviting the hippies and bohemians to take to Krishna consciousness. Yes, he had said, everyone. But he had known that once joining him, his followers would become something different from what they had been before. Now the devotees were a family. If they followed his instructions, they would remain strong. If they were sincere, Krishna would help them. Lord Jagannath was present, and the devotees would have to worship him faithfully. They would be purified by chanting Hare Krishna and following their spiritual master's instructions. Prabhupada got into the car accompanied by some of his disciples, and a devotee drove him to the airport. Several carloads of devotees followed behind. At the airport, the devotees were crying, but Prabhupada assured them he would return if they would hold a Rath Yatra festival. Quote, "You must arrange a procession down the main street," unquote, he told them. Again, quote, "Do it nicely. We must attract many people. They have such a processions yearly in Jagannath Puri. At this time, the deity may leave the temple," unquote. He would have to return, he knew, to tend the delicate devotional plants he had placed in their hearts. Otherwise, how could he expect these neophytes to survive in the ocean of material desires known as height aspiration? Repeatedly, he promised them he would return as Krishna did to the gopis. He asked them to cooperate among themselves. Mukunda, Shyam Sundar, Gurudas, Jayananda, Shobal, Gora Sundar, Hayagriva, Haridas, and the girls. Only 2.5 months ago, he had arrived here at this very terminal, greeted by a throng of chanting young people. Many were now his disciples, although just barely assuming their spiritual identities and vows. Yet he felt no compulsions about the leaving them. He knew that some of them might fall away, but he couldn't stay with them always. His time was limited. Srila Prabhupada, the father of the two small bands of neophytes, tenderly left one group and headed east, where the other group waited in a different mood, a mood of joyful receptions. So we will embarking on chapter 4. Our master has not finished his work. So there was no warning that Srila Prabhupada's health would break down, or if there were, no one heeded it. As he moved from his devotees in San Francisco to his devotees in New York, no one passed any words that Swamiji should slow down. After the 5.5-hour jet flight, Prabhupada spoke of a blockading in his ears, but he seems all right. He didn't rest. I remember that one of the disciple of His Holiness Gopal Krishna Maharaj, I asked him, share something about your Guru Maharaj, because we just celebrated the Disciplines Day. So there was a long journey for Gopal Krishna Maharaj, and I think 3-4 days ago they have a constant programs, morning, noon and evening, and Maharaj was not taking rest, because as we heard from so many disciples, then Maharaj was very family type of person. He would like to know about all the family members. So Maharaj didn't take more than 2 hours sleep for 2-3 nights consecutively. So when they booked a flight, I think the name was Param Karuna Das, that disciple of uh, Gopal Krishna Maharaj. He booked a flight first class, thinking that Maharaj would be able to take a rest because first class you can turn into a bed. But as it happened, when they sit and this disciple from economy went to Prabhupada, and they said, Prabhupada, you can just lie down, you can convert into the bed. And Gopal Krishna Maharaj's response was, I never sleep in air flight. He said, I will chant the holy name. So this is similar, Hare Krishna. He didn't rest, Prabhupada, but went straight to the festive airport reception into 3 hours of strong lecturing and chanting in the storefront at the 26th 2nd Avenue. To his New York disciples, he appeared dazzling and lovable, and by his presence, his glances, and his words, he increased the Krishna consciousness. As I wrote to Hanuman Prasad Maharaj, we chant every day, even while we are chanting. So I wrote, Maharaj, that it's so nice to see your beautiful face and have your darshan and chanting Hare Krishna Mahamantra. What a great, my soul becomes so jubilant, I wrote. And that's true. How we will get a chance, how many times that we will get a chance where we see these pure devotees chanting Hare Krishna with us. To them, his advanced age, now nearing 72 years, was but another of his transcendental future. He was their strength, and they never thought to consider his strength. Yesterday, whole day, I think from 9 o'clock I started my journey. And then I stopped by around 1:30 at my home to take little lunch. And then I will have to attend another family to help. The mother is alone in Houston. So her daughter lives in Dallas, made their arrangement to do refurbishing her apartment, and I will have to make a final check and give them money. So it took me like 3-4 hours in that endeavor. When I came back home, it was already 6:30. Whole day I passed through helping someone, and it gives so much happiness, when you help someone. Our days are also like that. Old age will come. We won't be able to walk, even with the help of a stick. We will become so dependent, and finally we will have to become completely dependent on Krishna. Seeing this thing, it is always good. I always said that we should visit the hospital every 15 days to see what suffering can bring us. And it's awaiting for us. Nobody can escape. Haribol. But we feel so complexions, right? Oh, I will chant the holy name later on. Let me finish my worldly affair. Whole life will go into that. Never will get a time to simply sit and chant. So let's continue Prabhupada words. What is the time? Okay, we have 5 more minutes. In the temple, speaking a new dais behind a velvet-covered latrine, Prabhupada said, quote, in my absence, things have improved. What a wonderful comment the disciple get it. New paintings hung on the freshly painted white walls. Otherwise, it was the same tiny storefront where we had begun his International Society for Krishna Consciousness. Hare Krishna. He had written them that he wanted to enter the new building on his return, but they had failed, and they have foolishly lost $6,000. Prabhupada never forget. But without dwelling on this, Prabhupada make a more important observation, that his disciple, despite the physical absence of their spiritual master, had made progress by following his instructions. That pleases the spiritual master. As he sat looking happily at the freshly painted walls and the bright faces of his disciples, Prabhupada explained how one obtained expertise in Krishna consciousness by submissively following the spiritual master. He gave the example that although an engineer's apprentice may not be expert, if he turns a screw under the direct supervision of an expert engineer, he is acting as an expert. Many of the devotees were relieved to hear this. They knew that giving up material desire was difficult and that they weren't going to become completely pure devotee overnight. Brahmananda had even written a poem stating that if after many lifetimes he could chant one round of the Hare Krishna Mahamantra with attention, he would consider this the greatest success. How humble. But Prabhupada was explaining that even if they weren't expert in love of Krishna, if they work under an expert, they were also acting as expert. Haribol. I think we should stop here. Time has come. We should be punctual. I try to be punctual to sending them wake-up call at 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock, and 5 o'clock. I have created the group who joined during the time, and I want to be so punctual that I don't know, sometime I close my eyes and I chant, but 2 minutes ago, Krishna reminded me, hey, you need to spend, it's 3:55. So I always try to be punctual to send the message. I missed today for the 2 o'clock devotee.